One moment.
The problem, Sputnik got the same problem, Catherine got the same problem.
Okay, one moment. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Bridgetti Banda here, live from Cape Town in South Africa. We are trying to broadcast live from Prestwich Primary School, where we have got Sputnik, Yusuf, and Catherine standing by. If you could please give us a moment, we will be back. We're trying to sort out a technical issue. Yusuf, I can see that you are in the broadcast now. I'm going to resend the link and see if we can make this work. So if you could all please just be very patient with us, we will try and be back as soon as possible.
Okay, there we go. How do I get my video?
Yusuf, are you able to, or any one of you able to connect?
Bridget, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I don't know if you can see me. Please, apologies for my technical inabilities. Do I put a video on?
Yes, please. No problem. We've got time. We can try and sort it out. You should see the app open, and then you can join. Please bear with us while we try and sort out the technical issues. Thank you. So the reason for these school visits is basically to encourage our young people to save water. Our dam is currently at just over 24% currently, and the only way that we can stave off or delay day zero is by continuing to have a culture of saving water. We fortunately have been able to extend that date until the 6th of July for now because of three reasons. One, people are continuing to save water. They are heeding the warning. And two, we've had a donation from the Groenvlei farmers who have donated another batch of water from their dams. They've released that, and that water is slowly running into the Steenbras upper dam. So that's another reason why, and also it's slightly cooler, so we don't have as much evaporation. So there are different reasons why we are able to extend that date. But unless we continue to save water, we cannot allow ourselves to slack down from saving water simply because the date for day zero has been pushed out to the 6th of July. We need to keep up the pressure to save water every single day. It's not a once-off thing. It is something we have to do continuously. Please, if I could ask you to just stay with us for a moment. We are trying to connect. Hi, Shelley. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, clearly.
Hi, yes. How are you, Bridgetti?
Very well, thank you, and yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Bridgetti, I just wanted to have a chat with you because I also went to the Operation SA launch, and I've been trying to assist where I can, and I saw that you'd written some comments about, what the schools can practically do in terms of assisting their sanitation, in terms of having, non-potable water for flushing chains and keeping the whole sanitation around the school as safe as possible.
Right.
And I've been trying to meet up with Yusuf and Catherine. Obviously, Catherine is so super busy because she's busy going around all the schools. And Yusuf isn't really dealing with the education side of stuff. So
Shelley?
just asked me, yes.
Shelley, hi. Sorry, you do know that we are live at the moment.
Oh, no, I didn't realise. Hi, everyone.
So tell us, Shelley, what are you doing?
Okay, so basically, the NPO that we're involved with is called Water for Cape Town. And what we've been doing over the last few months is getting together some water crisis education packs for all school-age children from pre-primary right up to matric.
Right.
So we've been working with Stellenbosch University Water Faculty to get, obviously, the sort of higher, the older age children matric edu books done. Put together, and we now have them all finalised, and they're beautiful and ready to go. And I wanted to find out how we could combine these with the awesome work that Operation SA is doing, going into or reaching the 100 schools in 10 days. And if there is a way that we could do sort of follow-ups within those schools with these packs, so that there's a sort of an ongoing educational process going.
Right.
And it can also be that we have a resolution for plumbing up grey water systems for the lavatories, especially in the more under-resourced schools, where we can keep the sanitation safe for them within the schools, specifically for lavatories.
Right. Carry on.
So yeah, so I've been trying to see who I could meet with to discuss this option and how we can get involved.
Yeah, that'll be absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that we can connect with you as after this. I will.
Okay, marvelous.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
I will now try and connect with Yusuf, with Catherine, and with Sputnik. So thank you very much for calling in.
Okay, Bridgetti, I look forward to hearing back from you. We'd love to assist where we can.
Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Bye for
everyone.
now. Okay, so we will try and make contact with the other participants that were meant to be here. So please give us a moment and we will connect with them. Let's try if we can speak to Catherine first. Just give us a moment. Okay, let's try Yusuf. I'm not getting a response from Catherine at the moment. Let me try Yusuf or Sputnik and see if we can get one of them on the line. Thank you for being patient.
Good morning, good afternoon to you, Bridget.
Good afternoon, Yusuf. Thanks very much for joining. We seem to have technical difficulties, but if you can join us via phone, this is absolutely fine. Yusuf.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I know Sputnik Ratau, the spokesman for the Department of Water and Sanitation, is with me. So we are loudspeaker, and apologies for the technical issues. You know, we're not too technologically advanced like you, but we're now live. Thank you for the opportunity, Bridget.
No worries, these things happen. Yusuf, can you give us a quick rundown as to what prompted you to start the Save Water initiative?
Well, we know that Cape Town has a serious situation with water, not only Cape Town, but a large portion of South Africa. We know the situation in Cape Town is critical. We know there's been talk of so-called day zero. Luckily, yesterday, the date was now moved to the 9th of July. We then were considering our options and also looked at the viability or not of bringing bottled water from Gauteng to Cape Town. We were inundated.
Right.
We provided millions of liters of water to people in drought-stricken areas, largely the northern provinces of South Africa. We then had a meeting with senior officials from the Department of Water and Sanitation who took us through the real plan of action, what they think needs to be done. And after looking at the viability of bottled water, we came to the conclusion, and in partnership with the department, that it wouldn't be viable to transport bottled water 1,100 kilometers from Pretoria or Johannesburg to Cape Town for a number of reasons. First of all, your costs are very, very heavy. Secondly, we wouldn't encourage people to stockpile water. Thirdly, we came to the conclusion after that we can't avoid day zero if we just go back to the basics and we save water. We then decided to launch the partnership between the department, Operation SA, Miss Earth South Africa, and other partners, and a number of them have then joined in to say, let's go to every corner of Cape Town, the Western Cape initially, and then to the other parts of South Africa, and promote the philosophy of saving water, something that you have done for some time as well. And I'm happy, let's confront the brutal fact. Whether day zero exists or not, people are saving water. That is why we've seen the last few weeks alone, the date has been changed to. And the more savings we have, we'll be able to avoid the so-called day zero. And that is what prompted us to launch this campaign. And that is why we decided, as part of this partnership, we're taking the Miss Earth activists to 100 schools over 10 days as part of phase one. I've heard Shelley was very kindly offered her services. We are just caught up with this particular phase, and possibly we do a phase two. We'll bring other partners on board, people like Shelley with great expertise. And let me put it very clearly, this is no competition. We're not interested in the politics. We're interested in making sure that water which is precious, water that's life is safe, and that is our bottom line issue, again.
Yusuf, what has been the reception at schools so far? What have you found at schools?
We've covered approximately 20-some odd schools over the past 2 days. Out and about, we're now in a school in the city of Cape Town. The response has been fantastic. Remember, every child, if we take the message to a child, that child will take a message to his family, say an average of 4 people. They will take the message to their neighbors. They will take it to their streets, their communities, their towns, their suburbs, their township, and then eventually to the province. So we will reach tens of thousands of people with the Save Water message. The response has been phenomenal. The children are overwhelmed, but I think what surprises me is the creativity that's coming out from our young people, telling us how we can save water. Everything from grey water to using a cup to brush your teeth, to having a 90-second shower, children drawing, we're giving them worksheets to be part of this awareness campaign. The educators themselves are delighted. And I think over the past 2-3 days, it's been really inspiring to see the reaction. I met the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Mochiecha, this morning, was also welcomed this initiative. I've had calls from the Western Cape Education Department again this morning who are government support. The government is fully on board. It's now up to the people of Cape Town in the Western Cape and South Africa to do what it takes, and that is to save water, because every drop counts, and as part of the Cape August initiative, which we are fully supporting, and the partnership that we have.
Fantastic. Yusuf, what have you found the schools that you visited so far in terms of water resilience programs that they have initiated? Is there...
Well, I mentioned innovation. Every school we've gone to, they've got some campaigns. The school here in Cape Town that we are currently at, I just walked through the foyer and I saw poster after poster right at the entrance. There's a poster to the effect, be a hero, not a zero with a tap. When you go to Mitchell's Plain, to Langa, to Kailicha, water awareness is there, and I think this message that we are taking is simply reinforcing what is already being done. I think our educators need to be complimented for bringing the awareness. We know it's still very, very lacking. Yesterday, for example, to a school in Langa, and when we launched at Hazel Dean Primary in Mitchell's Plain on Monday, really, I think they've got a long way. The school themselves have a borehole or two. More than ever before, thanks to the partnership led by the department, we create awareness, and we're making sure that we've got this message to every corner of Cape Town, the province, and South Africa.
Fantastic. And one more question, the boreholes at the schools, were those done by the schools themselves, or were those done by the department?
No, as far as I know, a lot of them were done by the schools. I know the department has a program. We are talking to the Department of Water, to COPTA, to see if we can sponsor at least 30 funding, thanks to OCA South Africa. We know there's a process. We need to follow the process. We can't simply go and drill a borehole. We need to apply for the necessary permissions. We need to get the hydrologist reports. These things do take time. I know a lot of schools are just simply digging so-called wells, which are relatively cheap. But I think let's do it the proper way. Let's do it professionally, because these boreholes need to be maintained. But a lot of the schools, communities have got together and they put boreholes together. And again, I think the city of Cape Town said it yesterday, any borehole water cannot be sold. That should be given to the people. It's wrong to sell borehole water, and it would be discouraging as well to sell borehole water.
Absolutely right. There has to be responsible use of boreholes, and there are processes in place, and a lot of the water that comes from the boreholes may not necessarily be potable water. It can be used for toilets and other purposes, but people need to be careful. There is a process, and as you rightly said, people need to be aware that borehole water cannot be sold. There is a licensing process that has to take place, and people need to follow procedures. We need to be responsible about how we do this. Yusuf, thank you so much. Is Catherine and Sputnik available? Should I call them separately, or can they use your phone?
Call Sputnik on his phone in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
When you finish with Sputnik, you can just call me on my call. I'll go get hold of Catherine, who's currently talking to our young people at the school. I'll try to grab her away from the workshop and bring her to come and talk to you as well. But Sputnik is available on WhatsApp, and you can check it out. Thank you for the opportunity, Bridget.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. I will try and get hold of Sputnik. We'll chat soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. And thank you to you, one of our water ambassadors, doing a superb job. And really, hello, how are you? I've got a young man. Maybe we can ambush him. Do you save water? How do you save water?
By bathing in a bucket.
By bathing in a bucket. Hello, how are you? What is your name?
My name is
How do you save water?
I save water by using a pipe to wash the car. Using a pipe to wash the car instead of opening the tap. Water flows out.
Good, thank you for your comment. Anyway,
I bring the bottles from home so that you cannot open the taps right when you give it in.
Well, then we have it. We all agree that we need to save water.
Yes!
That's our young people leading the way, Bridget, and I have to ambush them. And it's good to see our young people.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was amazing hearing some of our school learners there.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We will connect with Sputnik. That was Yusuf Abramjee at the Prestwich Primary School in Cape Town. We will now try and connect to a representative of the Department of Water and Sanitation, Mr. Sputnik Ratau. He is waiting online. So please give us a moment. We will connect with him.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Sputnik, and welcome to the broadcast.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Are you able to hear us?
Is that Catherine? Is that not Catherine? I mean,
It's Bridgetti.
Bridgetti, yes, I can hear you, Bridgetti.
Hi, Sputnik. You are live online. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. I've been struggling to hear you, and I'm right in the middle of a school playing ground here. You can hear in the background, but other kids are inside because they are engaging with Catherine and the other members of the team.
Sputnik, can you briefly tell us what your role is at the department and how you are involved in this campaign?
Well, as the sector leader, you know, when Operation SA approached us to say they are looking at, you know, doing an awareness campaign in terms of water saving, and in order to be able to look at how they can engage communities where communities live, so that people can be able to understand exactly the extent of this difficulty that the country is facing. We believe that it cannot be a better time, and therefore we decided that it would be helpful to hold hands, not just with Operation SA, but with any other colleague and partner that can come on board. And that is why we also appreciate the effort by Agri SA Western Cape, who have shown great leadership under the presidency of Agri SA nationally, as well as the whole secretariat and other officials. We're looking at, you know, we do have a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Basic Education, which opens up opportunities for us to be able to engage with schools, but obviously within the situation where we do not disturb schooling. And that is why, as part of this engagement with communities, we were able to, in agreement with the Western Cape Department of Education, being able to have time in order to be able to engage with learners, with educators, in order to open eyes of people to not just the difficulty, but as well as the opportunities that lie in them being able to play a part in order to be able to make sure that this country of ours that we love so much is able to come out of this situation.
Sputnik, what are the things that schools can put into place to save water? What are the things that's within their power, and what are the things that you possibly have identified that the department could assist them with?
Well, the first thing I think, Bridgetti, which will remain the cornerstone, is the issue of raising awareness, where it is about understanding the centrality of water in our lives. Because I think if people do not understand that, then there is no appreciation of what water is all about. And therefore, just for the kids to be able to understand that centrality and take the message home, where they obviously share that with their bigger families, with the broader community. Secondly, is for them to understand that the issue of vandalism does not make a hero out of anybody who does that, but actually has got a negative impact on water availability and so on, because you know, the destruction of infrastructure is one of the things that actually lead to a lot of water losses, but also to a lot of unavailability of water to those people that are still unserved, because then, you know, you take whatever efforts you are able, you needed to take forward, but you reverse that and go back to where you were. But also, in terms of just reducing consumption where the schools are, because some of them don't understand the little things like if you water your gardens during the course of the day when it is so hot, you actually add on to the evaporation levels being so high, and therefore that basic understanding of the timelines when you can best, which are best suited for you to be able to look after your gardens and yet also be able to lend a hand in reducing water consumption. Those are some of the basic things that we are addressing with our learners at school and educators.
Sputnik, do you get the sense there's a lot of people out there still who fail to see the connection between the water that comes out of the tap and the low levels of the dams? Is this a space where children can?
People still struggle to make the connection, and yet once their eyes are opened to what the reality means, and that water necessarily does not come from a tap, there is a whole cycle that influences where we end up with our water. That kind of understanding then helps a lot in terms of making sure that people begin to appreciate the kind of systems that need to be kept in place in order for us to reach where we need to go.
Right, and I would imagine that schools can play a crucial role in this education. You know, things like fixing leaking taps, for example. I think you mentioned that earlier. So it's the little things that can make a large impact if we can reach more people with the same message.
It's the little things, Bridgetti, you're so right, because even before you get to fixing the leak, but just identifying the leak that, you know, I'm passing this place every day, but there is this water that is just oozing out of the ground. I don't know where it comes from. If you get to school, you inform your principal can take the matter forward to the authorities and all of those things. And then you are able to save loads and loads of water. But it's those little things. But I think, Bridgetti, one of the things that maybe we are not highlighting is that there is the issue of understanding as well what kind of career opportunities are available in the sector. Because obviously when you start talking to these kids, some of them are in the higher grades where they begin to understand that there is life beyond just this classroom where I am. And some of them, with the ideas that they share, you know, when we ask for ideas from the learners, it's absolutely, you know, you become gobsmacked at the level of understanding of some of these kids.
Right. I'm sure that we are going to be able to turn them into water heroes. And it's great that we're getting the cooperation from the learners, the teachers, and the headmasters. Sputnik, are we going to be able to speak to Catherine? Is she available?
I would love to believe that. It seems like they've just finished. Inside, I'm not too sure what the status is. Can I just walk through and see what is happening and come back to you in 1 second?
Yes.
I'm almost at the door now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us while we work this out. Unfortunately, we were not able to get video coverage today, but we will definitely reschedule another broadcast where we can get visuals. But for now, we will make do with voice only. And thank you for bearing with us. It does sound like Ratau is in
Hello.
Hello. Hi, is this
Hello.
Catherine?
Hi. Yes, hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining us live.
Thank you so much. Hi to everyone who's tuned in, and thanks for the opportunity.
Catherine, can you briefly explain to our listeners how you got involved with the Save Water campaign and why? What prompted you?
So basically, I was called in with Yusuf to the department to see what it is that we can do as a social justice activist and an international climate activist. My work within the environmental space has really been far-reaching from an educational perspective throughout South Africa. So much of my work over the past 10, 15 years has really been driven around ensuring that we educate our nation from our schools to our communities on environmental issues such as water, such as waste, looking at food security, and most importantly, climate change as a whole. As an international climate activist, I've seen the impact of climate change over the past 10, 15 years and the extreme impact that it does have on our country. And only when crisis times like this hit do people connect themselves to this thing called climate change that they really actually don't connect to otherwise. So unfortunately, in a crisis situation, there are actually great opportunities that we must embrace, and educating and making sure that we change behavior and we shift mindset is critical.
Catherine, I like that you made the connection there between water and food security, because that's something people may overlook and not quite understand. But water is very critical to us having food on the table. If there's no water, there's no food on the table. And that same argument goes for people complaining, for example, about the agricultural sector having access to water, feeling that we should get that allocation. But there's a very close link between the two. Without water, we can't have food, right?
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. A lot of the critics, I think, have actually not investigated this enough. They have not understood that our agricultural sector, not only for the food that we eat on our tables here and for export part of the economy, relies system would not be what it is without water, and therefore the drought affects them in a huge way. It is their livelihood, and it's a huge part, an important part of our economy. So the agricultural sector and food security are most certainly very, very important when we look at the water crisis.
Catherine, can I ask you, if in speaking to the children, because you've now had first-hand interactions with them, are they understanding the impact of the water crisis? Do they understand that this will affect or does affect our everyday life, and to what extent it affects us?
It's, in fact, feel privileged to do the work that I do because I engage with these young minds. And to go to schools across the greatest city and outskirts of Cape Town as part of what the water crisis is. They understand the impact. Some of them are so impressed at all the kinds of things that we need water for in order to operate normally as we do. So it's really been an amazing educational drive. It has also been an awareness drive for children. And to listen to the inventions and the ideas they then come up with, and they tell you, well, why don't we do this, or can't we invent that? It's so exciting because you see science and engineering coming into the lives of these minds through talking about water. You also then get the young children who are shocked when you tell them that we have children in our country that don't have access to water. So we've really tried to diversify, not just talking about the crisis, but opening the mind of the young children we engage to think about the opportunity of how we can live better, how we can sustain this precious resource, not just because of day zero, which they all have heard the term, some know about it, some know what it means. Talking the way that we live and making sure that they understand enough for all, forever. We have to inspire them to be water heroes, not because there's a water crisis, but because this needs to be our way of life. And if through this campaign we can inspire the minds of this generation, we will be doing something for the future of not only our country, but a generation of young minds that will inspire science and engineering, inventions and thought leadership in years to come. So this is really an important part of the work that we're doing, to get them to understand why right now there is a crisis, because some have felt the impact of that crisis in a huge way. And those that are coming from homes where they use 50 litres or more have been encouraged to champion making sure that their community, their families, their brothers, sisters are all using below 50 litres of water, because they now understand what 50 litres can do and how far you can actually stretch that resource.
Catherine, thank you. I have one more question for you when it comes to speaking to the children who are really on the ground. It's easy for us who live in the suburbs, who have water coming into our homes. We have bathrooms, we have kitchens, and so we really are feeling the impact of the crisis. But my question relates to children who live in homes where they do not have running water inside their homes. People who don't have bathrooms, who don't have kitchens with running water. What have you found when you're speaking to these children? Do they believe that we actually have a crisis? Do they understand that it's real, even though it may impact them very differently to the children who live in the suburbs?
You you know, it is important to understand that children do definitely understand after we've spoken to them, especially the children who are coming from informal settlements, who are living in townships where they don't have access to drinking water, they don't have proper sanitation facilities. They are so, it's as if the light has gone on, because when you start to tell them about this water being a precious resource, when you start to explain to them all the things that life that water allows to happen, they understand that actually, yes, they don't have it in their homes, but they do make use of it, or they need this precious resource because of you know, they've got food on their table that has come from a farm that has used water. They understand that when they go to school and they do have a flushing toilet that comes from a water source. So they do understand now, and that has been we're top of mind, and we've been very sensitive in making sure we understand the children and the demographics, and then ensuring that the message is kind of tailor-made to speak to those children and engage them, get them to share what their ideas and thoughts are, why water is important for them. So we have been very conscious to make sure that children from across the greater region of the Cape are informed about the crisis. They understand that we have to become the ones that protect it. If we have access to it directly or not, one person's water crisis is everyone's water crisis. So even if we're not living even in Cape Town, we've explained to them and shared with them the drought in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape, in KZN. And so that this has to be something we all stand together as South Africans and champion. And by the time we leave every single school, no matter if it's children that have access or don't have access, they are all geared up, ready, and excited because of the Miss Earth ambassadors who have spent so much time in their classrooms or in their schools. They're championing and dedicate that they will now be water heroes. So by the end of it, the idea is that they all want to champion protecting this resource, if they have access or not.
Catherine, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us live from the Prestridge Primary School. And thank you for helping to champion our little water heroes.
Thank you so much, and it's a privilege to do the work that I do. Bit by bit, we will ensure that we start to live a life where we're more sustainable, and that we can understand that less is in fact more, and there's so much that we can do if we work together as South Africans.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much to those who were able to join us today. That was Sputnik Ratau from the Department of Water and Sanitation who joined us live. We also had Yusuf Abramjee who joined us live, and also thank you to Catherine Constantinides who joined us live from the Prestridge School, giving us some information on the ground from how the school visits are going and how children can play an integral part in helping us to save water. And by saving water, we can ensure food security, not just for now, but for in the future. And if we all can realize that saving water is not a sprint, it's not something short term, this is a life-changing change we need to make in our lives. If we can all save water, we only have 24% water left in our dams. And in order for us to push back or to continue to push back day zero, we have to not only sustain our savings, but we have to increase our savings, because unless we get rain and unless that happens this year, we will be in trouble. We've heard several times from the Premier that the augmentation schemes are running slightly late, and that the water we will gain from the augmentation schemes is not going to be sufficient. As it currently stands, the water from the augmentation schemes will make up approximately 10% of our current usage. So if we don't drive down usage and we don't save water, we definitely are going to be hitting day zero. Thank you everyone for joining the broadcast. Please would you share this, and we'll be back with some more stories from our schools around Cape Town very soon again. Thank you for joining, and have a great day, everyone. Goodbye for now.